Hello, everybody. I'm Kelly, also known as Sir Rainbow Sky Child, and it's been a while, hasn't it? Wow, I haven't uploaded to this channel in like a year, more than a year, I think. A lot has been going on, and I want to explain why I disappeared for as long as I did. But I don't really feel like turning this into a sort of monologue. It's still going to be a monologue, but not one of these videos, if you know what I mean. So instead, I'm going to recap absolutely everything that has happened the last 2 or so years while I show you what I hope will be a really cool bullet journal spread for August. I just wanted to say quickly that I am participating in a new readathon called Sci-Fi September, and I'm helping host it as well. But I have explained all of this on my other channel, Booked Trips, so go ahead and check out that video if you're interested, but then come back here and watch this one. So anyway, without further ado, let's just get into this very long, painful story. Before I begin, please do excuse the chaos. Setting up to film proved tricky, so if this video is a mess, I'm sorry. Secondly, I lied. At first, I really was going to tell you guys the full story of why I disappeared, giving you every last gory detail of all that has happened. But now that I'm scripting this, I realize I don't want to, for 3 reasons. Number 1, I don't want to immortalize certain events on this channel. Number 2, I am sick of giving these things energy. And number 3, I just don't feel like reliving it, so fuck it, you'll get the short version. Not long after I uploaded my previous video, the shit hit the fan where I was staying. Literally to the point that I had to call the cops on my own landlords and fuck out of there as quickly as I could. So my life was uprooted, and I was in no position to film. I stayed with relatives for a short while, and then ended up in Pretoria, where I met, quite literally, the worst, most toxic people I have ever known, and was treated so badly by one of them that I lost my mind, had a mental breakdown, almost killed myself, and then got my life uprooted again. So I ended up at the coast with my sister and stayed there for 6 months. It was a much-needed break that did me a world of good. In that time, I learned to give up and admit defeat. I let go of everything I was carrying with me and allowed my life to go up in flames. The goal was to start from scratch, to rebuild from the ashes, if you'll forgive the cliché. I'm not condoning or encouraging giving up, but it worked for me. The second I stopped giving a fuck about everything was the second I truly began to heal. It was a long process, but a good one. And in that time, and also for the first time since 2018, I didn't feel depressed or beat down. I wasn't struggling, and things truly started to look up. Following my minimalist ways, in letting go of all of the shit that pinned me down, I made more room for the things that matter, and so great things started happening. I found love for one, I returned to work for another, and most importantly, the light I lost returned to my soul, and I started to feel like myself again. So I returned to Johannesburg, and things are great now. From enjoying a relationship that's nice and non-toxic, to finding spirituality, to rediscovering my inspiration and creativity, to taking a leap and starting my own business, and not to mention an abundance of opportunity that will bring about the end of my financial disrepair, everything is really and truly great. But for a long time it wasn't, and that's what leads me to this video. I started my last bullet journal in August 2020, the same month that shit went south in Pretoria. Reaching the end of that godforsaken book was a more important moment than I could originally comprehend. August marks a full year, since I headed into what was literally the worst environment I have ever been in. It has been an entire year since I met and moved in with the people who would go on to drive me to near death. But I'm still standing, and honestly, things have never been better. And so we get to the concept of equivalent exchange. I have been obsessing over Fullmetal Alchemist. The reason I chose it as this month's bullet journal theme was simply because I like it, but in setting all of this up, I realized something poetic. The story, if you don't know, is about 2 brothers who make a grave, naive mistake and literally lose parts of themselves as a consequence. They then embark on a quest to restore what was lost, and in so doing, uncover a grim, super evil plot set in motion by the very military they serve, but that's irrelevant to the poetry here. See, I realize that even though this probably wasn't the creator's intention, the show is a pretty good analogy for depression. Alphonse, the younger brother, loses his body and becomes a soul attached to a gigantic suit of armor. But even though he's alive and sentient, and actually can't die, He's shown to miss the feeling of rain, the taste of food, and sleep. He even goes as far as to say that he can't take the nights alone anymore. And Edward, the older brother, carries all the guilt of what happened with him. Haunted by his lapse in judgment, he blames himself, even though he didn't know any better. And throughout the show, even though he's portrayed as good-hearted and good-natured, he questions his own humanity. Dramatic and exaggerated as this may seem, depression made me curse the loneliness and the insomnia and the inability to feel or enjoy anything. It made me question my own worth, and most importantly, it sent me on a quest to regain all the parts of myself that I lost, just like Al and Ed. When I started watching Fullmetal Alchemist, I wondered what it was about the show that made Al and Ed feel so real, more so than most other characters do, and that is saying a lot. It could be that the show is just that brilliant, because it is, but it could also be that they feel so real because they're relatable. But what, you may be wondering, does this have to do with equivalent exchange? In the show, it's the concept that the goal or object you're trading for must have equal value to what you're willing to trade. It is a roundabout way of saying that what you put in determines what you get out. A year ago, I focused on how trash my life was, so more trash manifested, and I didn't want to live. Now, I put effort into existing. I'm grateful for everything I have, and I have learned to love myself. And in exchange, life is wonderful. It's what I mentioned earlier. I let go of all the bullshit, so the beautiful could thrive. I'll end off with 2 quotes that I appreciate, and so added to August's spread. I'm not sure if they're from the manga or the anime because I'm only halfway through the show, so do forgive me if I've misworded it. I found them online. The first is, we're going to be moving forward. If we move forward, we'll get stronger, both physically and mentally. And the second is, a lesson without pain is meaningless. That's because no one can gain without sacrificing something, but by enduring that pain and overcoming it, you shall obtain a powerful, unmatched heart. A full metal heart. Considering everything that's happened, and that I'm still here better than ever to tell the tale, I don't think I have to explain why those words resonate. The only other thing I can say is that I'm inspired and motivated to make something of myself again, to return to what I do best, storytelling. And believe me when I say, I have many, many stories to tell. Even though I have said this countless times before, this time it hits differently, because I'm not talking about this channel, I'm talking about myself. I'm back! Really and truly I am.